What's going on, everyone? Wes Pruitt, 4-Star Sports Media. Hope everyone's doing well. As you can see to the other side of me there's Jonathan Sturdvant. Appreciate everybody watching and listening. This is Sports Buffet, presented to you by 4-Star Sports Media. I do want to start by apologizing. I know I sound terrible. I am under the weather right now, but going to fight through it and talk a little sports today. Got a jam-packed show for you. Plateful is what we like to call it. Not really a jam-packed show. It's more of a plateful. But we got a plateful for you today as we are talking NBA, NFL, boxing, entertainment of some sort tonight. Then we'll get into college basketball. We may do college football first and then college basketball, depending on when the guest comes on. We got Jordan Silversmith coming on to talk Florida State football. Johnny, he's back. The last time he was on, Memphis and Florida State were getting ready to play. That was early on in the season, it feels like. I feel like that was forever ago. But he's back. John Sturdvant's in the house. John, I want to give you a shout out real quick, man. Great stuff yesterday with your Inside the Line show. Man, that's creating quite the buzz on the X.
Yeah, let me just say, first of all, I want to give a lot of credit to you for producing it and being a guest as well. And also want to give out a lot of credit to a lot of coaches. You know, we wouldn't be here without them, per se. And these kids wouldn't be here without them as well. Once a coach, always a coach, no matter what age group it is. And people want to say, well, they're always there for you. They are always there for you, always giving you support, whatnot as well down the road. Essentially the way that college athletics is right now in general.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, they were excellent yesterday. And as we said last night, best of luck to all of them today, or tonight, I should say, in their upcoming playoff games, which are going to be pretty exciting. All right, John, let's go ahead and jump over, man. Let's go ahead and start with our first topic, and that is the National Basketball Association, as we're going to take a peek at the standings. John, let's start with the Western Conference, okay? So Thunder sitting there up number one right now, 10-2 on the record, 8-2 in their last 10. Warriors are sitting just half a game back, 9-2. Grizzlies are sitting in seventh place right now, 6-4 in their last 10, 3 games back. 7-5, 6-4, 7-5 overall, 6-4 in their last 10, 3 games back right now of the Thunder. And when you look at the Grizz, well, I mean, they got a big game tonight against the number 2 team, and that's the Golden State Warriors. Excuse me. Tough loss on the West Coast as the Grizzlies would drop a game the other night, or Wednesday night, to the Lakers, 128-123. What's your thoughts on this Grizz team as we just talk about the Western Conference real quick before we slide over to the Eastern?
Well, second right now in the Southwest standings at 7-5, right behind the Houston Rockets. I think they're doing okay through 12 games. Of course, Ja's been out with some type of hip injury, they call it, the last couple of games. So Ja's being Ja right now with the injury bug the last couple of years, and it's showing pretty early on in the season. I mean, they're scoring points without him. I know you scored 100-something points without him the other day against the Lakers in losing effort. But the next few games are crucial because you definitely want to – I think you want to stay a little bit above the 500 mark, if all possible, because you never know. I'm not trying to jinx them here, but Marcus Smart just came back, from injury and whatnot. So
Careful.
I don't know. I'm not trying to jinx. So long story short, if they can just keep the injury bug other than Ja healthy and whatnot, I think they'll be okay. But I'm not concerned about Zach Edey. He's still learning the game, as he's still scoring somewhat decent points and some decent rebounds. But the foul trouble is going to happen because he's a rookie. He's still learning the game, whatnot.
It's also big as hell. I mean, think about how many fouls Yao Ming had back in the day. He's huge.
But overall, through 12 games, I'm satisfied with the record. But like we talked about, you got Golden State tonight, and then you play Denver Nuggets back to back on the Sunday, and then the following Tuesday, and then play Philly. So if you go, let's say 2-2 or 3-1, I'd be happy with those results.
Yeah, that's not that. That wouldn't be bad at all, actually. All right, man. Let's jump over to the Eastern Conference and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The last time we talked about this, John, you talked about how good of a run they were on. They're now 13-0. 3-game lead over the Boston Celtics, who are 10-3. Boston is 7-3 in their last 10. Obviously, I don't have to tell y'all what Cleveland is in their last 10 if they're 13-0, right? I don't. Okay, cool. Magic sitting right now 7-6, 6 games back, 5-5. And when you look at these two sides of the league, John, the Western Conference records seem to be a lot better than the Eastern Conference. I mean, you look at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, man. 2-2. I mean, I understand in the Western Conference it's 3-9, but still 2-10. The Raptors 1-9 in their last 10 games. They're 10.5 games back. They're almost already out, and the season just started.
Well, the key for Toronto right now, they're 0-7 on the road. So whenever you're not winning road games, and then your points per game is still at 112.8, and your opposition is 120. Of course, you're not going to win ball games by that. But I think the biggest surprise, I think, is still the Milwaukee Bucks at 4-8 in the Eastern Conference. And then I'll give another surprise, kind of like Miami. Right now, they're 4-6, ninth in the standings and whatnot. And what was coach thinking the other day against Detroit? He forgot he was out of timeouts and overtime, and tough way to lose at Detroit. That just cannot happen in the NBA.
Yeah, very true, man. Very true. But it's going to be an exciting season as that season's just now getting started. John, let's jump over to the topic number 2, and that is the NFL. As we're sitting halfway through the NFL season, as we're at the halfway point, and we saw a pretty good ball game last night between the Eagles and the Commanders. The Eagles will go ahead and get the win, 26-18. We'll start there. What was your thoughts on the game last night between Eagles and Redskins Commanders?
What a slow start for Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. Like we talked about in previous weeks, whatnot, the offensive line um, is not doing their part at times, and sometimes they are. They're missing Mr. Kelsey on that offensive line, I guess, still. And scored 20 points in that fourth quarter. Good win at home. But it shouldn't really come down to that when you got a good kicker in Jay Elliott just missing 2 kicks, 1 out of 3, to start the game and whatnot, and then just finally getting his groove back like we know. And Jalen Hurts, 221 yards passing. Rushing leader was, Saquon Barkley at 146. I love that pickup for the Eagles more and more, to be honest with you. Now looking at it, at first I was like, the Eagles already got enough running game or running backs. I know Saquon Barkley was definitely going to be the first string, on the depth chart per se going in. But I do like that pickup now for the Eagles. But that's 2 heartbreaking losses for the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And now, I mean, you look at the NFC side of things, the NFC East. The Eagles are now sitting at 8-2, with the Commanders dropping to 7-4. You got the Cowboys sitting there at 3-6, followed by the Giants at 2-8. Look at the NFC West. This is going to end up being a fun little division right here. I'll wait on who had the Cardinals being good this year. 6-4 right now for the Cardinals as they have the lead over San Francisco, sitting at 5-4. Then you got the Rams and Seahawks both sitting at 4-5. The NFC North gonna be another fun one. Lions sitting at, you talked about them a minute ago. Lions 8-1, 7-2. Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers 6-3. Chicago Bears. I've seen a lot of people not happy about the Chicago Bears at all, by the way. But 4-5 in the Chicago Bears. In the NFC South, what an exciting division this has always been. once Tom Brady left, this just it went down. Falcons sitting there 6-4 right now, and then you got the 4-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, followed by the 3-7 Saints and Panthers. What's your thoughts on the NFC, real quick, John? As a entire deal here,
I think it's up for grabs.
it's that's what I was just about to say. Is it not completely just everyone grabbing for the same thing?
I mean, Tampa Bay's better than their record has shown, 4-6, but they lost four, games in a row. But you got to remember they've missed two of their star receivers and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So Baker really has no excuse me, has no receiving core other than his tight end to look to and throw the football to. But I'm really impressed the way that Jordan Love has handled Green Bay at times as well, being 6-3. And then you just brought up the Cowboys. Jerry Jones needs to go ahead and just retire and give it up and just give it to his son or somebody. And just, as Stephen A would say, Deion Sanders might be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, the way we're looking at. But
Do you really
again,
think that has legs, man?
to be honest with you, I don't. I think Deion is not going to be an NFL head coach anytime soon. But
We'll talk about that later. Yeah, go ahead.
I think, to be honest, yeah, no kidding. But anyway, long story short, just the Dallas Cowboys, just what a mess that is, especially when you got Parsons calling out Mike McCartney in his post game interview, and it's just going downhill. To be honest with you, you let two guys go to different teams. Yeah, I know I'm bringing up Tony Pollard to Tennessee, and I'm bringing up Derrick Henry to Baltimore, but you cannot. I mean, when I say that, free agency for Derrick Henry, of
Yeah,
course. But I'm just talking about you cannot let two of those guys go to another team in general.
I agree.
But
I agree.
my thoughts on this real quick. Denver Broncos playing safe the other day against Kansas City was kind of strange to me because Patrick Mahomes, I know he got that kick blocked with about 4 seconds to go in the game,
Mm.
but you definitely cannot take a chance, of essentially the way that Kansas City's defensive line. I don't know if you saw it or not, but the first field goal attempt of the game, I believe, Denver had issues on the offensive line where Kansas City also almost blocked it.
Okay.
So, in general, Denver Broncos being 5-5 on the year, that's a good start for Bo Nix and company, I think.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And you just talked about it, man. Denver. Denver is sitting there at. I'm sorry, Kansas City. Kansas City is sitting there at 9-0
They're
right now.
losing this weekend, though. Calling it
What
now.
now? What was that? Huh? What?
They'll lose this weekend to Buffalo. Calling it now this weekend.
Hold on. Excuse me.
Buffalo and Josh Allen company. I know their defense is not really up to par. When you do a cross country trip like that,
Hmm.
I think, and especially the way they've been competing these close games, I think Buffalo gets them this weekend.
Really?
Dude, Josh Allen don't get enough love still. You know how it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see that.
And I'll do another one. Pittsburgh over Baltimore, too, this weekend.
Okay. Pittsburgh over Baltimore.
The game's at Pittsburgh. Dude, I'm not going to lie. Russell Wilson has definitely impressed me the last couple of weeks.
He has. You say he has?
Yeah, he has. So 3-0 as a starter the last 3 weeks. So essentially the way that Commanders game went and just throwing that
Yeah.
deep ball.
Yeah. And they got the lead right now in the AFC North, sitting at 7-2. AFC South, we ain't gonna talk about it long because my team sucks. Texans sitting at 6-4 right now, followed by the Colts sitting at 4-6. Followed by a team we're not even going to talk about. They're at 2-7, and then the Jaguars are currently sitting at 2-8. John, at the halfway point, man, I got a question for you.
Yo,
Do you think we'll see any teams tank for talent in the upcoming draft? Second question on that is this real simple. We got Jordan Silversmith coming on in about 10 minutes too, by the way. Um, what talent are they going to tank for?
All right. To answer your question, yes, they will. You will see like a Cleveland Browns maybe tank in this couple of games because they're 2-7 right now. You got the Tennessee Titans, like you said, your team that you're only talking about 2-7.
Cowboys,
Uh,
maybe?
to be honest with you, I won't be surprised if the Cowboys do tank too. I'm not saying they'll because essentially long term right now, the way that Dak Prescott might be on the shelf for like 6 weeks more, possibly. And it might not even finish the regular season, possibly. But yeah, they'll be taking probably, and then the Raiders, of course, 2-7. What a disaster that program is right now, too. The talent they're probably going to be taking for are probably going to be Travis Hunter, Shadir Sanders, um, Gentry, the running back from Boise State, that type of stuff. And because a lot of people, like the Cowboys, definitely need a receiving core, and they need a lot of help too on the offense side of football. The same thing, nothing against the Browns and Jameis Winston. He's doing the very best he can right now with the injury bug that they got. But yeah, I can see the Browns, Titans, Raiders, and then the Cowboys taking down the road. Oh yeah, and the Giants too.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious because I mean, I honestly feel like we could see it start happening. Just kind of curious as to if or when it does start happening. You know what I mean?
I'll say about 2 weeks tops. Maybe you'll see it.
You think so?
Yeah, I think 2 weeks, give or take.
I could see that.
I mean, I'm not counting out the Patriots, although I think, to be honest with you, I think the way that Drake May has kind of like last week, I forgot who they played, but Drake May kind of showed a little bit of poise last
Mhm.
week. So I'm not giving the Patriots or the Jets yet because, Jets still got Aaron Rodgers, and you never know what could happen with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
It's a different story with Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback, yes, but they can still win some ball games with Aaron Rodgers.
this is true. This is true. Um, very true. All right, John, we got about 8 minutes before we jump over and talk college football. What we'll do is we'll finish. All right, we got time to squeeze college basketball in here. We got 8 minutes. Um, so we're gonna jump over to college basketball real quick. Two conferences and a national. Give me SEC. Give me AAC. I know we talked about it last week.
Mm-hmm.
You gave us both, or you gave us as people, fans, whatever. You gave us surprises, things of that nature. Now that you've watched some games, give me some teams who you're having fun watching so far.
All right, and then the American, I'll go with North Texas Mean Green. They're 3-0. They get that huge win at Minnesota the
Mm-hmm.
other day in a low scoring affair. We talked about North Texas maybe surprising people earlier, in the
Mm-hmm.
season in the American. So North Texas right now is kind of fun to watch being 3-0 on the year. And then I'll do my SEC. I think Mississippi State still can very well be maybe better than their top 10 preseason ranking. I think they can maybe surprise some people. Just the way that, of course, we talked about him numerous times is Josh Hubbard and Matthews and company.
Yeah.
I think they're done pretty well, and they're gonna be on full display this Sunday on ESPN when they host. Well, they don't. I mean, it's a home game kind of for Mississippi State because the game's down in Landers Center down in South Haven, so they'll be definitely showing out for the Mississippi State faithful in that one against Utah. And then you say a national team also.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Let's do. Hang on one.
Like for example, I,
I mean,
my national
wait,
team.
yeah, I'm gonna say Kentucky right now, maybe.
I was just about to say my national team is Kentucky. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kentucky maybe because the way they kind of took over that game against Duke and gave Cooper Flag fits down the last 5 minutes of the ball game per se.
Yeah.
Um, the other team that's kind of off to a good start is North Florida being 3-1 per se as well. I know people are like, "Why North Florida?" I'm like, "Well, have you seen who they actually have beaten so far?
Mhm.
In the season so far, and they're first in the A Sun right now too. So 3-1 North Florida.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the SEC, um, Auburn is playing really good basketball. Really good basketball. When you look at the American, I know earlier I said that I thought Memphis was going to surprise a lot of people. I've kind of been surprised by the Tigers in a sense of, um, and they've come back second half uh, and shot the ball better.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, man, I think Mark Pope. A lot of people question that hiring. Um,
I did.
I mean, obviously everyone here in the state of Arkansas did. Um, but then you go and you look at what he's doing. Can can you really question that, John? Because he's doing an incredible job right now with that basketball team to beat Duke how they did, complete game, and then to watch them continue to play the way they have has been honestly, man, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
If Kentucky can just slow down, I know Coach Pope from the BYU days likes to shoot a lot of three ball. If Kentucky just can slow down regarding that, because they are averaging about 25 to 33s a game,
Hmm.
in general, I think Kentucky very well maybe surprise some people in the SEC under them in their first year as well. But yeah, the reason I'm bringing up North Florida real quick, Wes, is because they've been like 20-point underdogs in all their wins per se. They beat Georgia
Yep.
Tech 105 to 93. They beat South Carolina 74 to 71. So to be a double-digit underdog against those two opponents and just get those two quality wins, in this year in general, onto the right, good start and being 3-1.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Um, yeah. I mean, man, when you look at this Kentucky team, like we said, um, you just talked about it, and Mark Pope's talked about it. Mark Pope has said numerous times, "Hey, you know, um, it's going to be 40 minutes. We may not win the game, but you're going to be wore out after you play us." And so far, I mean, I understand it's early in the season. I get it. So far, it's been very successful, which has been kind of surprising. All right, man. Let's take a quick break before we jump over to college football. We got Jordan Silversmith coming on here momentarily to talk Florida State football. Matter of fact, Jordan's here now. Give me just a second. Let me just get Jordan over here real quick. Let me get Jordan over here real quick. All right. So, hang on one second. Yeah, John's doing the tomahawk chop, Jordan. Hang on one second.
We gotta get them started.
Yeah, well, it's a different system that we're using. Well, you know how it is, John. We're just having been
Yeah.
stuff around here. All right. So, all right. It's not going to look right, but it's all right. We'll go ahead and just make the transition. Jordan,
Am I
hope you
in?
can hear us, man. I know that looks goofy on the screen. I apologize.
No, no
But
problem.
first off, man, welcome back to the show. We
Yeah, man.
appreciate you
Thanks for
coming back
having me,
on
buddy.
with us.
Peace out.
Uh, it's been an interesting season for the Florida State Seminoles. What a different conversation we're having now as we were having earlier, Jordan.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking that. I think we spoke for the first time right before the Memphis game, and I told you guys I did think Memphis was going to win, so I was right on that. But I certainly didn't think that it would be looking like this a few months down the line.
Yeah.
Mm.
So let's go ahead and start there, Jordan. When you look at what just transpired, Florida State lost some coaches, and you put out an incredible article right prior to that happening. It's like you were a little bit of a Nostradamus there, Jordan.
Yeah, well, obviously, I appreciate you guys reading, but it was just pretty obvious that the writing was on the wall. Just, and that's kind of what I talked about this in the article too. Just the way that Coach Norvell spoke at the press conference on Monday, the way he spoke after the game, that changes were going to have to be made because you can't just lose by 49 points. Obviously, I know Notre Dame is a good team, but the way that they just Norvell said he didn't have a problem with the effort in the second half, but losing the second half 31-0, they kind of just rolled over at best, quit at worst, obviously. So it kind of seemed like it was going to happen. I was surprised that it was both coordinators. I would have thought just a position coach or maybe one of them and try to go through the rest of the season, try to get healthy over the bye week. But certainly he ripped up the Band-Aid and fired 3 coaches.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, Jordan, where do we start? Oh gosh.
Yes,
uh, I'm not going to use the word quit, but it does feel like the team has quit on the last couple of games in general. Once they're down by like 14 or so, I feel like they say, "Screw it, we're not going to come back. We don't have a shot." But was that what it seemed like in the press box?
Well, I'll just say this. In my opinion, I think that there is some quit, and I wrote about that. According to Norvell, it's just a lack of confidence. So that the team will go down, and then they'll start getting down on themselves, and then they can't really come back. But certainly, it feels like quit. I just think it was a young team this year. It was a team that hadn't necessarily been in the big moments, and they didn't necessarily like know how to pull out close games or
Mm-hmm.
know how to come back the way the team did last year. And so I just think that when things start to spiral, there's no leader, there's no one guy that they can go to on either side of the ball to try to get them out of that spiral. And so, is it quit? Is it just a lack of talent? Is it just miscommunication playing some of those young guys? John, like you said, is where do we start? And this is the thing, like the answer to all these questions seems to be yes. Is it quit? Sure. Is it confidence? Absolutely. Is it guys not on the same page, lack of chemistry? That too, because they're playing a lot of young guys now, a lot of the freshmen. So it's all of it, and all of these problems have snowballed into the season that we're having right now.
I'm not
You
sure
know,
that
Jordan
term, but
Jordan
that's
Silversmith
one.
joins us right here on the Sports Buffet, presented to you by Four Star Sports Media, where it's always a plate full of sports. Um, Jordan works for Tomahawk Nation, does an incredible job for those guys down there. So when you look at Florida State right now, you just talked about it. Where do we start, right? My question is not right now. My question is the future. Where does it go? Because it's gone from as high. I mean, it was literally like riding a roller coaster. You went as high as you could go, and then all of a sudden the bottom fell out, and you went as low as you could go. My question is this: like I said, where does it go forward? And is there a chance that we could see some boosters pony out some millions of dollars and get rid of one Mike Norvell?
Well, I'll stop you right there. No, Norvell's not going anywhere, at least right now. So that is not on the table. It's not going to happen. Firing the coordinators showed you that Norvell is going to stay. He'll be there at least through next year. Obviously, his new contract, the buyout is ridiculous. I understand the question, but no, Norvell's not going anywhere. So, with that being said, how can this guy fix it? And I think what's going to have to happen is because they can't go 1-9 again. So, they're probably going to have to go back and hit the portal one more time. Maybe not as heavy as they have done. I think a big question in the offseason is you mentioned boosters. How much are boosters willing to pay up after seeing this season that they just had? I think On3 reported that the roster this year is somewhere between $12 to $15 million. I think The Athletic reported that they're paying just the front four defensive linemen $2 million combined. So that's obviously $500,000 per player. If those numbers are accurate, will there still be that same funding with the settlement in the house, with the construction happening around the facility, with possibly needing to hire a new basketball coach if Leonard Hamilton retires? There's only so many dollars to go around. So I think that's kind of my first question, is how much are they willing to get from boosters, along with hiring a new staff, which I'm sure we'll get into later. I think 247 reported that just firing the three coaches now is about $7.5 million, and you have to pay a competitive salary to fill those spots. You're looking at about $15 to $20 million in coaching changes in the first place. So I think first is, how much money is there to go around to fix the roster? Secondly is, how deep do they go into the portal? And then I think third is what they do at the quarterback spot. Obviously, they've given a lot of reps to Brock Glenn and Luke Kromenhoek. Neither has really stood out. That's why Norvell keeps on rotating. Will it be that he'll go with one of them? Will they try the 2 QB system in the spring, and then whoever loses might transfer out? They're now rumored to get a new 4-star quarterback, Carter Smith, that On3 reported. Could he be in the mix next year as a true freshman? Probably not, but maybe. So I think the quarterback question is a big one that's coming up. And then fourth, like I mentioned earlier, how much are they willing to hit the portal? They're going to have to revamp along the offensive line. They're going to have to revamp along the defensive line. Certainly the question is how many players end up leaving this season. So where to start? It's the same question as like, how far has this gone wrong? Because the way that everything spiraled, now everything needs a new answer.
So Jordan, as someone who's there, I mean, you've been there from the beginning. You've literally been at every game, including Dublin, as we talked to you about. What are you seeing from Mike Norvell as far as passion, as far as drive? I mean, I know he says the right things, but what are you seeing action-wise from Mike from a writer's perspective?
Yeah, I'll say this. It's been a very confusing season for Norvell, but I don't think I've seen him pull back. I think I wrote about this in a practice article the other day, and it was like Malik Benson was just going through a drill against scout team, and like he didn't really run his route very hard, and like the defensive back like broke up the ball. But it wasn't really anything crazy. Like it was in the middle of practice. Like you wouldn't have even batted an eye if it was last year's team. And then Norvell flipped his lid and went ballistic on him. But that's who Norvell is. And so that was before the Notre Dame game when they were 1-8. And so I just think that little example was a good peek into that he's still invested. Maybe everyone's invested, and maybe his message has fallen on deaf ears amongst the team, but he's still there. You hear in the press conference the other day on Monday, like talking about the staff that he fired, and you can still hear the emotion and the passion in his voice. I do think that his post-game press conferences have been totally odd. It varies on taking responsibility, blaming others, coach speaking, sometimes just like not having an answer. So I think he's being exposed for his age right now. I know he's been a head coach for 9 years, including Memphis and obviously Florida State, but he's still only 42 years old. So I think a lot of it actually is him learning on what it takes to go through a difficult season like this. But I actually think Norvell is the one guy that hasn't pulled back when maybe everybody else has. He just doesn't have the answers everyone is looking for and doesn't know what front to show everybody else, because what do you say when your team is 1-9 and it's the same problems all the time? So I think this on the field coaching has been a disaster, and we can get into that. But I would say like passion and still being a leader, that is still the same Mike, in my opinion.
No. Go ahead, John.
Jordan, is there any improvement at all regarding this football team?
No.
Okay,
I mean, that's why,
no defensive back play better, no running game better, or anything like that. Nothing. Okay.
I mean, we can talk about it, and I was just thinking about, that's what I mentioned with the on the field coaching still not being very good, because the script in all these games has been legitimately the same script the entire season. It's like the game is moderately close because the defense shows up for like a quarter and a half. the other team rips off like a big gain explosive play or like
Yeah.
this ridiculously long drive. The offense goes 3 and out. The defense is gassed, and goes up 2 scores. Then they have to throw, and then once they move the ball down the field, then it's a turnover. The penalties are bad. The 2-minute situation of football is bad. So it really is. I was talking with my dad during the second bye week about like, okay, like what are ways to still keep this team watchable? Like are there like minor victories that you could kind of see, even if they don't win games, from different guys? But I don't know. I mean, I think the quarterbacks have gotten worse. I guess they've dropped like less passes, but they also have only had like they're averaging like 9 completions a game over the last 4 games. Like they can't move the ball on the field. It's bad. I mean, one guy that has improved. I mean, Azaria Thomas has been really good the last 4 weeks. Like he's played really good on his side, and he's their best corner and probably their best player. And he's definitely like I think he's like filling up the stat sheet. But like and Daryl Jackson. So I would say those two have probably improved. But besides that, no, it's been a tire fire.
Okay, the reason I was asking that question is because according to the reports I've been seeing on social media and even articles that people have written, that there might be more coaching changes in these couple weeks. Do you see Norvell making any more coaching changes in these couple weeks before this? I mean, you only got 2 games left in regular season, of course, with Charleston and then Florida. So do you see Norvell making any more changes in the offseason regarding coaches?
Yeah, I do. I don't think that they will happen. Like I think like he's done for now, and the change will be
Right.
made after the season is over. But I do. No, this is certainly not the end of it. Not only will he need to make his own staff changes, but the new staff that he brings along, those guys will also probably want to bring at least one of their own coaches, depending on what that looks like, depending on who the play callers are offensively and defensively. So I do think so. I mean, listen, you never want to call for somebody's job, but, the writing is on the wall with already firing the coordinators. Clearly, like I talked about before, with the buyout money that Norvell and the athletic department and the university are on the same page with financing those buyout deals, like I mentioned, and then also paying up for the new deals. But no, this is not the end of it. How many? Who knows? Patrick Surtain is rumored with the Southern Miss job. That wouldn't be a firing, but will he leave and they'll have to find a new secondary coach? I mean, it's possible. So to answer your question, absolutely, this is not the end. It's actually only the beginning.
Well, who do you see as a possible candidate as the OC and DC coming into Tallahassee then?
Yeah, there's a couple of options on both sides. Norvell, as a young guy, actually has a pretty incredible coaching tree. I don't. The biggest question with the offense coordinator is who's going to call the plays, whether or not Norvell will be willing to give up play calling duties. Because listen, people talk about like Florida State is not an attractive job right now because of how bad they are, but if Norvell gives a coordinator control to call his own plays offensively, then that job becomes a whole lot more. It makes it so much more advantageous to hire an offensive coordinator. It makes it so much more desirable job because you can call your own plays. So, answer your question. The hottest name right now is Brendan Marion, the UNLV offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Young guy. He played under Norvell in Tulsa. He coached under Norvell at Arizona State. That UNLV team has been really good the last couple of years. If you remember, they lost their starting quarterback with some transfer portal drama at the beginning of the year, and they're still on fire. It's a kind of a unique like spread offense, so it's got some Norvell elements, but it's kind of its own thing. And he's a young coach too, and I think that Norvell kind of needs to infuse youth and energy into the staff. So that's the first name. And then another name on the offense coordinator spot that I haven't really seen, but that I really want is Chris Wenke, obviously former Florida State quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner, national champion. So he's the co-offensive coordinator at Georgia Tech right now and also their quarterbacks coach. They're rotating 2 quarterbacks right now that can both play. That Georgia Tech team, they've had a couple bad losses, but that's because Haynes King got hurt and they didn't really know what they were doing. But they're one of the most improved teams in the country offensively over the last couple of years. Defensively, the biggest name right now is Scott Simons, the defensive coordinator at SMU. He worked under Norvell directly at Memphis when he was the inside linebackers coach. And then another name that I like, not as much noise, is Derek Nicholson. He's the defensive coordinator, co-defense coordinator at Miami right now. He does not call the plays, but he was an FSU grad. He went to FSU like in the late, probably about in like early Jimbo eras. So I think those are kind of 4 names to watch right now. Big names, big programs, ACC ties, Southern ties, Norvell ties. Norvell mentioned some interest at the next level from the NFL level. I don't think that will look in a coordinator. I think that will look as a position coach, kind of like Patrick Surtain, who was a high school guy. He went to the NFL for a year or two, and then as like a control coach, like not really even a position coach in the NFL, and then transitions back to the college game. So I think that's what you'll probably see from the NFL side.
Interesting names there, Wes.
Man, really interesting names. And I think the Winky hire, to your point, Jordan, I think that would be a home run, in my opinion.
I think so.
Because you immediately get the old school fans immediately. I mean, I don't know a single Florida State person who calls themselves a fan that doesn't know who the hell Chris Winky is. I mean, if you don't know who he is, you lived under a rock for seemingly 3-4 years. It felt like. Yeah, Winky was he was fun to watch. Peter Warwick was even more fun to watch. But Jordan, let's switch over to a topic that I know is not the most popular when it comes to people from Florida State, and that's the CFP. So let me get. Yeah, I saw that snicker. That was funny. So we've seen now 2 rankings come out. Boo and the boys are gone. It's now Wade and the gang. But give me your top 12. I know it's a very off the wall, wasn't expecting a question, but
it's funny. I didn't even watch the rankings this
Had a
past
boy.
week.
Had a boy.
It doesn't even matter.
I didn't watch it either.
I mean, okay, so I guess I'll just go through. Okay, I'll go through what I think. So I think that we'll start with like number 1 team in the country. I think obviously it has to be Oregon. Then I would say Ohio State 2. And then I guess I would still have I still think no matter what the records say, I think the top 4 teams in the country, talent wise, roster wise, whatever, is Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia. You can make them whatever you want. And listen, I know Carson Beck hasn't been good. That offensive line been bad, but I still think no matter what, those are going to be the top 4 teams in the country, or that will be the way that it shakes out at the end of it once the playoff actually starts.
Georgia number 4, really?
Love it. Okay.
Well, I guess okay. That's what I'm saying. Like my top 12, I guess not necessarily from like what the rankings would say. I'm just saying like if you want to know the actual 4 best teams in the country, it's still those. It's still those 4. And I get like Ole Miss just beat them, and Ole Miss looks really good right now. But I would just say that to me, no matter what, those are still the top 4. Then I think after that, it's some mix of like Penn State, Indiana, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. I think those are probably next. I think there's Alabama in there too. They just had that good win against LSU. So I guess those are the next 4 or 5. And then after that, it's kind of a hodgepodge in there. I guess people like Boise State, people like BYU. Then you have those ACC teams, SMU against Miami. But again, like the winner of the ACC title game, that will tell you your answer of who's the better of the 2, and the other one will get left out. So I think that's kind of the way that I just see college football in my head right now, at least from a tier ways. Obviously, like the CFP, it's an invitational. Like the rankings didn't make any sense this week. Like Indiana and BYU played badly and they moved up. I don't think Indiana's a really good team this year. I don't think anyone thinks that they're the 5th best team in the country. I guess we'll find out if they get exposed to Ohio State or not. But obviously, like it's not about who the 12 best teams actually are. So so in my mind, you kind of do it through tiers, and that's the way that I see it.
I actually like that idea, and I never really thought about the whole just tier ranking. I actually think it's a great idea. So when you look at the CFP, Jordan, you look at this college football playoff, first round games are held on campus. Are you a fan of the first round games being on campus to give the local fan base, to give that university, basically, I mean, that's a prize for making it, correct? I mean, and being one of the top ranked teams.
I think it's cool. Oh, also I want to mention, I forgot Notre Dame, which obviously should have been. I would have them in that second tier. So obviously I forgot to mention them.
Okay.
I do think it's good, but the one thing that I will say about the CFP, and I think that it's ridiculous that you're having 18 to 22-year-old, and they talk about like player safety, that you're having 18 to 22-year-olds now playing 16, 17 game seasons. It has nothing to do with player safety. So, sure, I think it should all be brought back to the fans, and I think as along with like the practicality aspect, it's not practical to have all these players playing these games. And it's not practical to assume that fans can, I guess, now travel 3 rounds at least.
Exactly.
So I think it's great that it's on campus to lower the travel and maybe even the ticket. Actually, probably not ticket costs, but at least the travel, plane, hotel costs for fans that are local in the area, because it's ridiculous. So what? So let's say Georgia, for example. They're going to be on the road, but let's say they go to the national championship game because Carson Beck turns it around. So they have to go on the road in the quarterfinal. No, I guess it's 4 rounds. It's 4 rounds, right? And so they got to go on the
Yeah.
road 4 different times, and like
Well, starting the second game, it's bowls. Yeah. So like
right, yeah,
starting
but
that
it's
second
like
round,
yeah,
it's all. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying.
you know what I'm saying. So like I do think it's good that it's on campus, just from the travel aspect. But I think this whole thing is a charade, and that's just like the end of it. Because
Well,
it's
I mean, from a journalist, I mean, us, you, I mean, think about how much that's going to cost. I mean, and then you're booking
sure. I
hotels,
mean,
not even knowing if your team's going to be there or not.
sure. I mean, listen, it's great for eyeballs of the sport. It's great for some of the drama that we're already seeing. So I think like college football always had a big game problem, and now with conference realignment and with the 12-team playoff, you won't have that be an issue anymore. But just from a practical standpoint, it's nothing to do with it's a money grab. Like it's obviously a money grab. It's interesting. It brings eyeballs. ESPN was able to like sublease those games to TNT and make even like I get it from the business side, but from a practical standpoint, like none of it is practical. And the other thing is too, does anybody really think that with 12 teams in, it's going to change the outcome of who is actually the best team in the country? Like it's still going to be Oregon, Ohio State, or Texas, Ohio State in the national championship game, no matter what. So it doesn't really change who wins. I think really like maybe like a 16 playoff would have made sense if you want to talk about really practical. Give the 1 and the 2 seed buys. So then it's only 3 games. You can still kind of play the circuit through. I think maybe that would have made more sense, but obviously, like now they want to go to like 14 teams and whatever else, and that's my opinion on the playoff.
Yeah, no, you're good, man. And I think I like John and I were talking about this the other day. Actually, I mean, it was actually a segment on the show. I think you see it get to 16, maybe even 20 teams,
Right.
by the time it's all said and done. And we've talked about it. I think by the end of I think the NCAA is going to be completely out of the picture. I mean, it's the CFP. The NCAA has nothing to do with this trophy at all.
Sure.
So you're already seeing breadcrumbs of that stuff happening. Jordan Silversmith joined us today on the Sports Buffet. Jordan, before we let you get out of here, man, we got to give you a chance to tell everybody how they can find you, follow you, watch you, listen to you, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that, Wes. Yeah, follow me on Twitter, jsilversmith24. We got a big game tonight for Florida State basketball at home against Florida, so I'll be there. I'm excited for that. But yeah, keep up with all offseason new coaching staff hires, anything Florida State, and then I write for Tomahawk Nation, so you can find what I write on tomahawknation.com.
Give me your top 3 Heisman finalists right now.
Genty, Travis Hunter, and Dylan Gabriel, because I can't say Kem Ward. So we'll go with those 3 and list them out.
That's why I did it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I was thinking to myself, if he puts Cam Ward on this list, he's going to make
I
some
mean,
folks
listen, I
unhappy
think
in
Kem Ward he's a top 10 pick. Like he's a great quarterback, but I hope this year, because there hasn't been like a transcendent quarterback, that they give it to either Genty or Travis Hunter. I mean, there's only so many years you can give it to a non-quarterback. Obviously, I guess recently was Devontae Smith. So I hope that they give it to one of those two. But I do think Cam Ward's a wonderful quarterback, and I do think that him and Shador will both go in the top 10.
All right, my last question for you real quick, Jordan. Wes didn't bring this up, but me and him talked about it yesterday on the phone. Is this the Randy Shannon jinx for Florida State?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see if he can give them some life defensively against Florida. I guess that's the only hope. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I think Randy Shannon's now been the defensive coordinator now at 4 schools inside the state of Florida, something like that. So
Yeah,
Florida
Yep.
State,
Florida, UCF,
All when coaches have been
Miami.
let go.
yeah. So
It's a
I don't
coach,
know.
man.
I
It's a coach.
mean,
You need to get him off your
hopefully you can
staff
give them
quick.
something. Yeah.
Okay, let's just say.
Get him
Okay,
off your staff
let's just
fast
say.
as you can.
Hey, let's just say if Florida State does fire Mike Norvell either this year or next year, do they really want Deion Sanders down in Tallahassee?
I can't even go there. I like it. It's. I mean, I don't know. I will be interested to see what Dion's next move is,
Yep.
because obviously, like Colorado, he totally turned it around. They have a run game. They play defense now. But again, it comes down to Hunter and Shador, and they're obviously going to be gone next year. And he hasn't really recruited very hard. So could he go back in the portal and try it again? Sure. I mean, could they get like one of these high school senior quarterbacks that they're interested in? I mean, it's possible. But I think Dion is going to be really interesting, especially this year because his son is leaving, and also because there's not as many head coaching openings. So I don't think Dion would be in play in Tallahassee. I guess, but now you have to actually start respecting it because that's a respectable program and a respectable team that controls their own destiny to go to the CFP as well. I mean, they could totally win the Big 12. So it's we kind of think it's satire, but I mean, there's a day we might actually have to have a serious conversation about that.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, Jordan, thank you very much for carving some time out of your day
Yeah,
for us, man.
absolutely, guys.
We
Appreciate you having me
appreciate you
on.
coming on.
Yeah, absolutely, guys.
All right. Jordan Silversmith has joined us right here on the Sports Buffet. Well, John, let's go ahead and keep the college football talk going, as I want to talk about the CFP. So we talked about it with Jordan just now.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on the CFP? But let me ask you this specific. What are your thoughts on the fact that on the CFP committee, it is acting assistant or acting athletic directors for universities? Do you feel like that there should be acting athletic directors who have direct ties to schools and who are going to be swayed by certain conferences to vote a certain way? And you can't tell me it's not happening. Do you feel like that's right or no?
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't really watched the selection show yet, so it's kind of really. I mean, I've seen highlights of it on social media, whatnot, but I haven't really seen a full episode. So to answer that question, I mean, yes, maybe because you still got the Big Ten favorites in Ohio State and Oregon and Indiana, all still combined 28-1 on the year. So maybe you'll have a little bit of bias toward that because Indiana, yeah, is five right now. They went up 3 spots in the last college football playoff ranking, and I guess they just want to make it more chaos because I know their strength of schedule hasn't really done anything, but they're undefeated, and that's why they're at number 5. And I also want to apologize to all Penn State fans out there. I did not have Penn State in my top 12 the other night. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You definitely need to apologize to James Franklin and Penn State for sure. Um, John, let's talk about a game that's going to take place in Arkadelphia, Arkansas this weekend, and that is the Battle of the Ravine. We were there, we being 4-Star Sports Media, were there in 2021 when Henderson State, the Reddies from Henderson State, walked across Highway 67, that 0.08 miles to the Ouachita campus as their fans lined the street and they walked through a sea of their own fans. This year, Ouachita has to make the trip over to Henderson. Ouachita holds the all-time series lead 46, 44, and 6. Yet the Reddies did get a big win last year, 31-27 at Cliff Harris Stadium, which would snap a 6-game losing streak for Henderson State. And speaking of Henderson State, it also included 2017 when the Ouachita victory snapped the Reddies' longest road winning streak in D2 football history at 31 games. That's insane. A 31 game road winning streak? That is crazy. Um, Also, a fun fact: Wichita won its 27th conference game in a row in the 2019 Battle of the Ravine, that tied the record of 27 set by none other than Henderson State from 2011 to 2014. So when you look at these two teams, John, obviously there's a lot at stake. Wichita's 9-1. They've got a chance to make another playoff playoff appearance, where Henderson State can totally screw that up. If Henderson State knocks them off, they would knock Wichita out of the playoffs, and this would be their sixth playoff appearance since, I believe, like 2012, 2013 for Wichita. So when you look at these two teams, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. What's your thoughts on this game as a whole? Like, in my opinion, I think game day should go to this game or have a satellite game day crew, something to show this game. I think it's awesome. Obviously, we've been there. I think this game should get a lot more light on it than it does.
Yeah, after all, it is 97 battle of the Ravine game in general. And we talked about this earlier in the preseason or whatnot. Why is this game? I mean, it's an early kickoff of 1 o'clock in the afternoon, per se, as well. Why is this game not later on in the evening?
Because typically, I can answer that question for you. It's because historically speaking, this game always took place on Thanksgiving Day.
Okay.
So they've always tried to keep it either a, noon, 1 o'clock, maybe even 3:30, something like that, kickoff, to keep with the history of the game, with it taking place on Thanksgiving all those years. And also, John, this will be the first time since 2005. Think about how long ago that's been.
Yeah.
That Henderson State will be led by a different football coach than Scott Maxfield, the all-time winningest head football coach, retired last season, and they would move up defensive coordinator and now head coach Holsworth. So they're 8-2 this year. Only losses came to Harding, 66-0, and Southern Arkansas, 42-19. But yeah, John, to your point, there's lights over at Wichita. I'm pretty sure it's lights at Henderson too. But I mean, let's think about it. If it starts at 2:30, by the time that game ends, it's dark.
Right. I mean, the series is 46, 44, and 6, and I think it's going to be another barn burner, to be honest with you. I won't be surprised if this game is kind of like a low-scoring affair as well, just because both defenses are playing pretty well as of date as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. 97 battle of the Ravine. Definitely looking forward to watching it on YouTube and maybe hear maybe a Hail Mary at the end of this game. You never know.
You very well could, man. And it's going to be a battle of two teams that do a lot of things really well. If you look at Wichita, they run the ball really well with Kendall Givens. Quarterback Eli Livingston's playing really, really well on the season too. And then you look at them special teams. They're second in the Great American Conference and 10th in D2 and kickoff return defense. They allow 15 yards per return. They're first in the GAC and ninth in Division II in kickoff returns with an average of 26.2 return for 0.2 yards. Their red zone defense is amazing. Wichita red zone defense is really good. Like I said, Kendall Gibbons, top 15 in the nation in 4 different categories. He's third in rushing touchdowns with 13, 10th in total touchdowns with 14, 10th in total points with 84, and 14th in points per game with 8.4. And John will close with this with the Wichita. Head coach Todd Knight, former president of the American Football Coaches Association, by the way, which is a massive deal. I mean, just think about that. The president of the Football Coaches Association was in little bitty Arkadelphia, Arkansas, at Wichita Baptist. But he, with a win tomorrow, would tie the late Buddy Benson as the Wichita football's all-time winningest head football coach. Knight started coaching, Coach Knight played for Benson back in the 80s. And Knight has compiled a record of 162 and 102 overall. His record is 189, 134, and 2 when he coached 6 seasons down at Delta State from 1993 to 1998. As Benson would coach the Wichita Tigers from 1965 to 1995. Incredible career for Benson. But Todd Knight, man, we talked to him preseason. We've spoken with him a couple times throughout the season. Incredible football coach. But John, now let's slide over to D1 football. Well, I also want to say this: I cannot wait for that game Saturday between Wichita and Henderson. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's slide over to D1 football, man, and let's talk about a couple of conferences, John. I'll let you start.
I want to start out with the. We can start out with the ACC.
Okay.
What is your? I want to see what your thoughts are on a few interesting matchups over this weekend that we actually have on the slate in the ACC, real quick, because there's some interesting matchups, per se, and I also think there might be a few upsets as well, but I don't think there will be that many upsets in that league this week or in that conference this week. What's your thoughts on Pittsburgh and Clemson, real quick? Who do you think wins that one? Right now, you do have Clemson being a 12-point favorite. I think Clemson kind of steamrolls in this game. I think the defense is playing lights out right now for Clemson, and I also think Pittsburgh's offense is kind of struggling right now as well. So I think Clemson does beat Pittsburgh pretty handily this weekend.
I mean, when you look at the all-time series, John, that game comes on at 11 a.m. Number 20 Clemson at Pittsburgh. When you look at the all-time series, Pitt does lead the series 3-2. Last meeting being in 2021 when Pitt would come away with a 27-17 victory. My guy, Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy, and Molly McGrath will be on the call for the game for ESPN. Give me Pitt, man. Give me Pitt to get a big win. Give me Pitt to get it because they took one on the chin recently. Let me see. I think Pitt's going to come back and get a big win there, John.
Then also got an interesting game in the ACC right here. Kyle McCord in Syracuse. Kyle McCord's kind of thrown a lot of interceptions lately. Traveling cross country on the CW, playing at California. Could Coach Wilcox and the California Golden Bears be bowl eligible?
Very well could be. Series is tied 1-1. Cal won the most recent series 43-0. The most recent game, John, was in 1968. So this is going to be a first for a while. You got Tom Brenneman, Max Brown, and Trevor Scales will be on the call over on the CW, as you mentioned. Give me Syracuse, man. Give me Syracuse, the Orange, to travel the country and get a big win on the road at Cal.
I think if California lets Kyle McCord throw the ball 60 times for Syracuse, it's going to be a long day for Syracuse because that's when he's been struggling at lately by throwing like 50 to 60 times a game for Syracuse, and he's thrown a lot of interceptions from it. But give me Justin Wilcox and the California Golden Bears and get bowl eligible and win at home this week.
Okay.
9.5 point favorites, right, for a reason.
Yeah, very true. So, John, did you know this? There's been a lot of close games in ACC play. Before the start of this season, the ACC had 73 league games decided by 8 points or less, over the last 3 years, 21 to 23. The 73 one-touchdown score games over the 168 conference games during the 3-year span is a mark of 43.5%. The trend has continued this season of 2024 as 24 of the 50 league games to date have been decided by less than 8 points, and that is 48%. Also, there's no home field advantage against the ACC. The ACC has proven that its teams can go on the road. As a conference, ACC teams are combined 38-28 in road games this season. the best mark above for all FBS conferences. This season, the road team is 26-23, has been victorious in 26 of the 49 ACC league games, not including the neutral site game in Ireland between Florida State and Georgia Tech. So there's just a little bit of nuggets of information regarding the ACC conference. John, I'm excited about this conference. Also, don't sleep on Virginia as they travel to Notre Dame this weekend to take on the number 8 Fighting Irish. Don't sleep on that game. I know Notre Dame may lead the series 4-0. They won the most recent series game in 2021, 28-3. But I'm telling you, don't sleep on the Hoos. Don't do it.
All right, Wes. In your neck of the woods in the SEC market now, it's going to be an interesting matchup at 11 a.m. Texas at Arkansas. Right now, Texas is a 13-point favorite. Over and under is at 57.5. How do you see this matchup in your neck of the woods in Fayetteville tomorrow morning at 11 a.m.?
Man,
Could Sam Pittman and the guys be bowl eligible?
I mean, I think they get bowl eligible. Do I think it's against Texas? No. No, I do not. Texas comes in 8-1, 4-1 in the SEC. As you mentioned, Arkansas 5-4, 3-3 on the SEC. ABC. Let's go ahead and break down the numbers real quick, John. Rushing offense, Arkansas averages 191.2 a game. That's 32nd in the nation. Texas comes in with 164 per game at 61st. Passing offense, 301 for Texas, 292 for Arkansas. I think it's all going to come down to this, John. Mm-hmm. Can Arkansas get pressure on one man, Quinn Ewers? Because if you look at Quinn Ewers since the second half of that Georgia football game, this kid, and I call him a kid because he's 18, 20 years old. He gets paid. I know. I call him a kid because that's what he is. But anyway, you got to get pressure on Quinn Ewers. If you can consistently get pressure and keep pressure on him and cause him to make mistakes. Sam Pittman said it earlier in the week. Jaquindon Jackson is back. He's ready to go. Mm-hmm. He also said Taylor Green had practiced. He looked good. That was from the SEC call on Wednesday. I think Arkansas keeps it close. I do. I think Arkansas keeps it close. The last time they were up here in Fayetteville, 2021, was a night game. One of the biggest sellout crowds ever in that stadium. And Arkansas came away with a big win. That's when Sam Pittman made the old statement, I'm going to go get me an old cold beer. I don't think he's drinking a cold beer. Maybe he is drinking a cold beer after the game, but I don't think it's after a win this year. I think Arkansas keeps it close, but I think Texas runs away with it at the end. And I know if I'm wrong, I'm going to get just taken to the stake up here. Right. Especially considering I have an Arkansas hoodie on right now. But for those of you listening, not that you care, but yeah, give me Texas, man. Give me Texas to win the game. Give me a 48-21 victory for Texas.
If I'm Arkansas, I'm doing the same exact game plan that you did against Tennessee. Doing the same exact game plan. You put pressure on Nico pretty much all ball game. You stopped the running game pretty well against Tennessee as well. And I think if you do that, and I also think if you do what our key stat, Wes, time possession,
yep,
could very well be a factor in this game as well. If you can keep Texas off the field and just control your own destiny and get points whenever you can, I think it could be very well a big day for Arkansas. But I'm not, I think Texas, I think they will do keep it. Texas and Arkansas will keep it close for like 3 quarters. Then Quentin Ewers wakes up and says, "Okay, I'm not here to play around anymore," and just throws like 200 yards maybe in that fourth quarter, and finally wakes up the Longhorn offense.
Yeah, I think Texas runs away with it at the end. What you got next, man?
LSU, Florida, real quick. Who's just? I mean, there's reports right now that Florida's quarterback is playing this game. So,
DJ Lagway.
yeah. So Lagway, he's a dual threat quarterback, and we know how much LSU struggles with dual threat quarterbacks. Could Florida sneak out and, as Blake calls it, Sunbelt Billy, get win number 5?
I don't know, man. LSU comes in 6-3, 3-2 in conference play, as you mentioned. Florida is searching for their 5th win, as they're currently 4-5, 2-4 in the season. 3:30, 2:30 local time kickoff on ABC. This game will follow the Arkansas Texas game on ABC. This is a big game, John, because if Florida wins this, did you know they will tie the all-time series at 34, 34, and 3 with a win?
Unbelievable.
I think when you look at Florida, you've got to, no question about it, you've got to attack on the rushing, right? Florida or LSU averages, they're 74th in the nation in run defense. Now, albeit Florida is 93rd in run defense, right? So you got to defend it too. But to your point about Lagway, very curious to see what he does this year or this game. Can he make LSU pay? Now, if you're Brian Kelly and you get ate up again, golly, if you get ate up, I mean, you already got spanked by Alabama coming off a bye. I'm talking about they bent you over your knee and just spanked your ass, old school style. But I don't know, man. I mean, I think there's a legitimate. It's at Florida.
Good thing it's not a night game. Let's just say that.
Yeah, you're right. Because them Cajuns start drinking 3 days before the game.
Well, the game's down in
Yeah. Oh, I know. Oh, they
Swamp,
travel.
but
Trust.
still.
Oh yeah. Give me LSU to get the win, but I think Sunbelt Billy and Florida keep it really close. I think it's literally like
Yeah.
a 3-6 point game, something like that.
Yeah, I can see it being a 7 to 10 point game. I think the defense right now is fighting. I know that right now Strickland, and company, Florida already said that Billy's job is safe.
Yeah.
But just the way they're keep competing the last couple of weeks, I think Florida keeps it close, like 7 to 10 points
Could very well be.
as well.
What
They're
about
also going to put pressure on Nussmeier as well. Well, the game of the week now. Real quick, I just want your thoughts on this game. Tennessee, Georgia, real quick.
I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of it has to do is Nico going to play, and then how effective can he be?
Could Nico? I know Nico's questionable right now. He battled a concussion last week against Mississippi State.
Yeah,
right. It's really a toss-up looking at it, to be honest with you.
It is. But give me Georgia to get the win over Tennessee, and I think in Tennessee's hopes of making the playoffs.
I'm not doing no prediction here because I think, to be honest with you, it's really a toss-up this year. Both teams are really competitive on the defensive line. Both teams are kind of even right now in general. I think the only thing different is that Tennessee's got a little bit of a better running game right now than Georgia.
Yeah. Samson's playing really well, and he's been on some people's Heisman list. Yeah, he's playing well. All right, John, we close all the sports buffets with a list, and you have compiled that list today. So what is your list?
The list this week on the sports buffet, featured by Jonathan Sturdvant and Wes Pruitt, your top 5 football movies of all time.
Okay. You want me to give mine first?
Yeah, go ahead.
My top favorite movie, football movie of all time, has to be Any Given Sunday. Followed by number 2, the original longest yard with Burt Reynolds, not the newfangled one. Remember the Titans?
2. Okay.
We Are Marshall
3. Okay.
and Radio.
That's 4. We got one more.
Did I not give 5?
Okay, you said remember the Titans. Okay, Any Forgiven Sunday 1.
Right?
Remember the Titans 2.
Yeah.
We Are Marshall 3.
Yeah. The Replacements 5.
Okay. All right, I'll go. Remember the Titans number 1. Denzel Washington, hell of a job, in that movie in general, and it just shows how much we actually need that movie sometimes in this country these days, as well right now too. Number 2, We Are Marshall. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Radio. That was a great classic movie. Number 4, Rudy, and then number 5, The Water Boy.
The Water Boy was close. Yeah, it was close. Classic movie. Yeah, classic movie. Well, John, I appreciate you coming on with me today, man. Friday morning, November 15th edition of the Sports Buffet. We'll get this thing uploaded as quick as possible. It may be this evening before it's up on the website and all that. But we appreciate everybody watching and listening and tuning in as always. And we appreciate Jordan Silversmith for coming on and doing, that guy's, he's young, man, but he is knowledgeable. Jordan does an incredible job with Tomahawk Nation and all that. But, John, we appreciate you. Appreciate you jumping on, man. Not a jam-packed show. It was another plateful. But we appreciate everybody watching and listening. And as always, folks, stay classy.